Carl Jung uncovered something that can completely transform the way you see yourself. There exists a personality type so rare that most people will go their entire lives without ever meeting one. Jung referred to them as super empaths, and what he discovered about them was both fascinating and, in many ways, unsettling. These are not simply sensitive individuals. They are people whose entire psychological system functions on a level that most humans cannot easily reach. If you've always felt like you never truly belonged anywhere, like you were too intense for some and not enough for others, like you noticed things everyone else seemed unaware of, Jung would say there is a reason for that. Jung spent many years observing these individuals in his clinical work. What he realized was that super empaths are not simply born this way. They are shaped through a mixture of natural sensitivity and life experiences so powerful that they reshape how the person understands reality itself. Over time, they develop abilities that appear almost supernatural to people functioning on ordinary emotional levels. But what Jung found most important was this: super empaths rarely recognize themselves. They assume everyone experiences life the way they do. They don't realize that most people cannot read a room the way they read a book, that most people don't feel another person's emotions as physical sensations in their own body, that most people don't carry the psychological depth that makes the super empath both powerful and deeply alone. Today, you're going to see the 7 clear signs Jung identified that reveal you're not just empathic, you're a super empath. Understanding this may finally explain why you've never fully fit in, why relationships drain you in ways others don't understand, and why you've always sensed there was something different about how you experience life. The first sign is that you read people with unsettling accuracy within minutes of meeting them. Jung noticed that super empaths possess what he called penetrating perception. They don't just sense surface emotions. They see straight into the psychological core of a person almost instantly. They can detect trauma, defense patterns, shadow aspects, and hidden motives that even the person themselves may not be aware of. This isn't about judging or assuming. It's about having such a finely tuned emotional radar that patterns become visible immediately. A super empath meets someone and, within a single conversation, knows whether that person is safe, whether they operate from wounds, whether they can reciprocate emotionally, or whether they are hiding something significant. What makes this ability unsettling is its accuracy. Super empaths don't just get vague impressions. They receive detailed psychological insights that later prove correct with eerie precision. They know when someone is lying before the sentence is finished. They sense manipulation before it becomes obvious. They recognize narcissistic traits, codependent dynamics, and trauma bonds while everyone else is still engaging in small talk. Jung found that this skill often develops from childhood environments where reading emotional shifts was necessary for survival. The super empath was frequently a child who had to detect subtle mood changes to stay safe. They learned to read micro-expressions, tone changes, energy shifts, and behavioral signals because their well-being depended on it. But this gift becomes heavy in adulthood. The super empath cannot switch it off. They constantly receive information about people that those people never intended to reveal. They see through social masks, notice when someone's public image doesn't match their private reality, and detect dysfunction families have hidden for decades. This makes social environments exhausting. While others enjoy surface conversations, the super empath is processing layers of subtext, observing unspoken tensions, and sensing conflicts that won't surface for months. They exist in a different psychological reality. The second sign is that your presence makes people uncomfortable in ways they can't explain. Jung observed that super empaths trigger a unique reaction in others. People feel deeply seen around them. Not just noticed, truly seen. And for many, that level of visibility is uncomfortable because it dissolves their masks. The super empath doesn't even need to speak. Their energy alone creates an atmosphere of authenticity where pretense becomes difficult. People begin revealing truths they never planned to share. They confess secrets. They lower defenses without understanding why, but this vulnerability often turns into resentment. Once they leave the super empath's presence and rebuild their defenses, they feel exposed. Instead of appreciating the connection, They blame the super empath for making them feel that way. This is why super empaths are often labeled too intense or too deep. They are not trying to be. They simply operate at a level of authenticity that many find overwhelming. Casual interactions become unexpectedly profound. Light conversations turn serious. People leave feeling like they revealed too much, and they resent the super empath for it. Jung noticed this creates a pattern where super empaths are both sought out and avoided. People run to them during crisis because their ability to understand is unmatched. But once the crisis ends, those same people distance themselves. Maintaining that level of authenticity requires growth most people resist. So the super empath becomes the person called at 2 a.m. when everything is falling apart, but not invited to celebrations. People want their depth, but not the responsibility that comes with it. The third sign is your deep need for long periods of solitude. This isn't simple introversion. Jung found that super empaths have nervous systems so sensitive they absorb emotional data constantly. Being around people is like plugging into multiple emotional currents at once. They don't just observe emotions, they feel them. Someone's anxiety becomes their anxiety. Someone's sadness settles in their body. Someone's anger moves through their system. They experience others' emotions as if they were their own. Because of this, after social interaction, they need time alone to release what they absorbed and reconnect with their own emotional state. This isn't optional self-care, it's psychological necessity. Without solitude, they become overwhelmed. They lose track of which feelings belong to them and which don't. They make decisions based on absorbed emotions and become internally fragmented. Others often misunderstand this withdrawal, seeing it as rejection or depression. But the super empath isn't avoiding people, they're protecting their inner stability. The fourth sign is a lifelong pattern of attracting narcissists and predatory personalities. Jung discovered that super empaths emit an energetic signature that draws such individuals in. It's not weakness, it's their depth of empathy, patience, and understanding. Predatory personalities sense this emotional richness and want to consume it. Super empaths offer not just attention, but attunement. They try to understand the pain beneath harmful behavior. They offer endless chances. This creates cycles where they encounter narcissists, sociopaths, and emotional manipulators repeatedly. Often this pattern begins in childhood, where they become emotional caretakers for unstable adults. They learn their value lies in absorbing darkness and giving back light. This conditioning follows them into adulthood, where they are drawn to broken people, mistaking intensity for intimacy. But Jung warned you cannot heal someone who feeds on your healing energy. The fifth sign is profound loneliness, even when surrounded by others. Super empaths can connect deeply with almost anyone, but few can connect deeply with them. They meet others emotionally, but few can meet them at their depth. This creates existential loneliness. They have friends, relationships, communities, yet still feel unseen. They are always the listener, the healer, the space holder. Rarely does someone hold space for them. Many relationships feel one-sided, not from selfishness but from depth incompatibility, like a deep-sea diver trying to bond with someone who never leaves shallow water. This loneliness becomes sharpest during their own crisis. When they need depth, others offer surface comfort. The sixth sign is experiencing psychological death and rebirth. Jung called this initiation. Super empaths don't just face hardship, they undergo identity-shattering transformations, breakdowns, betrayals, losses, awakenings, events that dissolve their sense of self and force reconstruction from the ground up. But they don't just survive, they transform. They face darkness, integrate lessons, and emerge changed. Each cycle deepens them while making them less compatible with superficial living. They cannot return to shallow existence. The seventh sign is understanding human darkness without being consumed by it. Jung's work on the shadow showed most people either deny their darkness or become ruled by it. Super empaths do something rare. They face it, integrate it, and remain conscious. They acknowledge their own rage, selfishness, and wounds without letting those forces control them. This gives them the ability to witness others' darkness without fear. But it also removes illusions. They know love cannot fix everyone. Some choose their shadow. If these signs resonate, Jung would say this sensitivity wasn't chosen, it was forged through survival. Your life will look different, more solitude, fewer but deeper bonds, more misunderstanding, but also profound power. Super empaths who understand themselves become catalysts for healing simply through presence. They show others it's possible to face darkness and remain whole. Your depth is not a flaw. Your intensity is not excess. You operate exactly as designed. The world doesn't need super empaths shrinking themselves. It needs them standing fully in their capacity while protecting their energy. You are not here to heal everyone. You are here to be whole. And in that wholeness, you become a light for those ready to do their own work. You are rare, you are powerful, and Jung would say, stop apologizing for it.